Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
You just want to do a quickie to again go over some things that people may not know. As always, thank you to the Patreons that support us. We couldn't do it without you guys.
Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. Being brought up in the Western world, we might not be aware of Shiva, one of the oldest, if not the oldest god, quote unquote, that the world knows. And again, Shiva is something that can represent more than one thing. Part of the trifold manifestation of God in the sense of this is the destroyer after you have the preserver and the creator. Brahma is the creator and Vishnu is the preserver. Shiva is thought as the destroyer, but you can also view it as the renewer, or the bringer of change.
I think so. I think putting the word destroyer in there is just, kind of a misdirection, because he takes that is not pure, that is not working, and he recreates it into something authentic.
Absolutely. And also, Shiva can represent pure consciousness before manifestation. That's another way of looking at it, as this is that consciousness which combined with the material universe brings us everything. It's the prime mover. So we can also look at Shiva as the prime mover, as Shiva is often depicted with Shakti, and Shakti is the divine feminine. Together they give us everything, and they are both creation and destruction and renewal and recreation, an endless cycle that consciousness explores. I want to share some things that you may not know. Again, there's many different aspects in it, and Shiva is represented in many different ways. You will always see the third eye on the forehead. Usually you will see the trident. And again, these things are symbolic. Usually, he's most definitely viewed most often in a meditative state. And as you see, there's been a lot of different videos done on Shiva. Did you know in the Jewish tradition, this is a resource for Jewish mourning, sitting Shiva is a term used to describe the action of Jewish mourners participating in the traditional rituals of observing a Shiva. During the period of a Shiva, mourners sometimes sit on low stools or boxes while they receive condolence calls. This is where the phrase sitting Shiva comes from. It's a practice that symbolizes the mourner being brought low following the loss of a loved one. For 7 days, the family members of the deceased gather in one location, typically their own home or the home of the deceased, and mourn the loss in a variety of ways. And this article goes into talking more about sitting Shiva. Don't you think it's a little bit coincidental that the god that is interpreted often as the god that brings death, which death is just a doorway, as soon as one door closes, another door opens, and we just step through conscious-wise. But don't you think it's a little bit more than a coincidence that this is the term for somebody that's passed through that doorway? Yeah, it is more than a little coincidence. And, again, we've touched on, and we'll go into this in a separate video. But when you look at Abraham and Sarah, it is Brahma and Sarasvati. This is where it is taken from, as Hinduism is the oldest religion on the planet. So I'll give you guys the link so you can look into this Jewish custom of sitting Shiva. Yes, there are a lot of scholars that have said that Judaism has really taken hold as an offshoot from the Brahmin class in India. Yeah, absolutely. Again, as we look, if you have studied the Upanishads, you will know where the best of Psalms and Proverbs come from, and where many of the allegories and the stories of the teachings of Jesus really come from. when you look at the Upanishads, they are parables. And often they're really giving the same teachings in just a slightly different light. Now, way over on the island of Samoa, thousands and thousands of miles away from India, they have a dance. And this dance is called Shiva Samoa. It's a Samoan dance. Again, it is interesting that the term, and again, you'll find Shiva spelled with an H and without an H in reference to the deity Shiva. So the Shiva dance is slow and fluid. It's a graceful storytelling dance that's traditionally performed by a young woman. A period of transition. Again, here you see some Samoans doing the fire dances, and boy, that looks like a third eye that you would paint on the forehead, does it not? No, we are connected at a much deeper level. So is this a Shaivite or is this an Australian Aboriginal? This is actually an Australian Aboriginal. And, what the interesting part too is when we look to these people who, as far as their DNA and lineage, this is as ancient as we get on this planet, we find that their language coordinates and has a lot of similarities to Tamil. Well, it's interesting enough to note that Tamil is the language that dominated southern India, and before what we would call the Aryan invasion of India, which happened from the north, this was the dominant culture there. And so the connection from India to Australia, which is a long ways distance-wise, and we're told that couldn't happen, that these people couldn't likely make it from one area to another. Again, in the Ice Age, the land masses are much bigger, and thus there was a lot of land bridges and even shorter little trips by boat. But also the Tamil themselves, you find connections over into Ethiopia with the same genetic lineage in Africa. And again, a lot of the linguistics are, interestingly enough, the same. And this is a picture of a Shaivite, and those that follow the Agori tradition, which is a left-handed path, let's just say, and it's a very, very renunciant type of path in which, all the things of the world are kind of abstained from, and they don't even really take care of the physical body. So it's very interesting to see the connections. And so, this person was just talking too about some of the weapons, as the astra in Sanskrit means weapons, could mean arrows again. And this is also in reference to some of the weapons that in the Vedic world were given to humans by deities. And we talked about the Brahmastra. The Brahmastra is a weapon that outshines the sun. It's said to be brighter than 40,000 suns. And often we find that these deities will bestow boons upon beings, positive or negative, that are dedicated to them in the sense that they will sit there and tap into the consciousness stream in order to connect to the potentials and possibilities that are out there in order to manifest the reality that they want. And time again, we see in the Vedic texts that there's boons given by Shiva and Brahma, more easy. Brahma gives the most boons, the easiest, and then Shiva, and then finally Vishnu is the harder one to get boons from, because he is also the preserver of this level of reality for the soul to explore and grow from. But, again, you'll find these beings, some much more demonic, like the Asuras that we talk about, and some much more benevolent, like the beings like the Devas themselves that we talk about, which are more like angelic type of beings. But again, very, very human, because ultimately, as above, so below, as within, so without. And, this is Source itself. Source contains both the light and the darkness, although ultimately the path back to Source is one of love and compassion. So I just wanted to share some of these things with you. Why would people get boons? Well, if you're single-minded and focused, and you're willing to put in the work, you can tap into the creative potential, whether you choose to use it for the light or the darkness. Of course, there is the karmic law as well. And if you want to take the high path and return to the higher realms, then always work towards the light.
There's karmic consequences with both. It's just up to you. What do you want to do? We all have the right to dance in the light, or we have the right to dance in the dark. It's our divine right. It just really, where does your heart lie? Where does your heart lie? And it's answering that question. Maybe it's somewhere in between. So there's no real clear answers, but it is our right to explore this consciousness we've been given.
Absolutely. Look forward to your comments. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.